am not a native of San Francisco. I often say I got here as fast as I could. But I have been here for almost all of my professional life. My name is Carol Ruth Silver, and some of you may remember that I was an elected official here in San Francisco. In fact, on the occasion of the rededication of this beautiful theater, I was here in that official capacity. But the capacity in which I come to you today is because I was a freedom rider 50 years ago. 50 years ago this year, in fact, 50 years ago this year, in May of 1961, a bus, a Greyhound bus, was traveling from Atlanta, Georgia, toward Jackson, Mississippi. And in Anniston, Alabama, a small town, the bus stopped because a mob of Ku Klux Klansmen, with the complicity of the all-white police officers in Birmingham and other small towns in Alabama, had cut the tires, causing it to stop wherever, and it stopped in a place called Anniston. And does everybody know what happened then? Have you seen the pictures? Did you see the pictures of smoke coming out of the bus, out of the front of the bus and the back of the bus? Well, I'm happy to say I was not on that bus. But I was one of the people who responded when that picture and that story went all over the country, all over the world, and people finally began to wake up to the fact that African American people in the southern part of the United States were not only being segregated, but were being attacked, were being murdered, were being burned, and that this was wrong, just plain out wrong. So I was in New York. I was a little bit older than some of you. I had graduated from college. I had spent a year in New York working, and I was getting ready to go back to school, to go to law school at the University of Chicago. And I heard a radio statement that said, we was CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, we are recruiting people to go and follow the same route, to go down to Mississippi, down to Alabama, and tell people that segregation is over. That we, the people of the United States, that we, the young people, because it was almost all of us young people, are not going to tolerate that. And I listened to that radio voice. It was Jim Farmer, whose name is not as famous as Martin Luther King's, but who was just as important in the movement. And I thought, you know, he's talking to me. And I thought, no, that's not right. He's not talking to me. There's thousands and thousands of people that he's talking to. He's just a voice on the radio. And then I said, but he's talking about righting the wrongs of this society. And I, as a white person in this society, I get the benefits of all the wrongs. And all these things that they're doing to black people in the South, they're doing in my name. They're doing to protect our white women, right? Remember that? Our white women have to be protected against these blacks who are going to who knows what. And so I said to myself, you know, I have an obligation. I have an obligation coming out of my training, my background, what I learned from my mother, my father, and from the Jewish schools that I went to, and the tradition of my people, which is is that one of the most important commandments, there are 10 commandments, everybody knows about that, but actually that's not true. There are about 350 commandments in that religion. And one of them is tikkun olam. One of them is repair the world. Fix it. If it's broken, it's your obligation as a Jew to make it right. And that goes from picking up trash in the park right down and up to be a freedom rider. So I called Corps and I said, well, I'm ready to go if you want me to go to Mississippi and be a freedom rider. And they said, do you have bus fare to get to Atlanta? And I said, well, I think so. And they said, all right, get on a Greyhound bus, go to Atlanta, and here's the telephone number, and somebody will tell you what to do from there. And so I put myself together. I got a little suitcase, and I said, now what does one take with you if you're going to jail? I wasn't sure. And in those days, we didn't have to go through airline things where they take away everything that's over 3 ounces and so forth. But the first thing that I did really was I called my mother in California, and I said to her, Mom, I know you've seen the stuff about freedom rides on the. In those days, we didn't have television. Can you believe there was a time before television? Other people had television, but we didn't have television because we were not affluent enough to have television. And I said to her, you've seen in the newspapers about the freedom rides and about the things that are happening down there. And she said immediately, you're not going to go, are you? You're not going. And I said, well, Mom, you know, it's all the things you ever taught me about my responsibility in the world and how we have to make it. Oh no, she said, my heart, you're going to kill me. So I said to her, now Mother, if you are not with me on this, you will be denying everything that you have taught me for all these years. And so my mother of sainted memory said, well, what do you need me to do? And I said, I have no idea because I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I got on the bus and I went to Atlanta, and in Atlanta I took training in nonviolence. And I learned how when somebody comes up and goes like that, you just sit there or stand there and you say, God bless you, or something like that. And when I finished with that training, I was assigned to a group of 3 African-American young divinity students and 2 white divinity students from Yale University, and the 6 of us got onto a bus and we rode through the areas where there were Ku Klux Klansmen. We saw mobs, we saw all kinds of threatening things, but we were not attacked. And when we got to Jackson, Mississippi, thankfully, the police arrested us and took us to the safety of the jail. And there I stayed for 40 days and 40 nights in 3 different jails in Mississippi. And I am more proud of having been a freedom rider and being in jail than almost anything else in my life. Thank you.